Ralph, I understand that you had some background with Wente when you were there in developing a sustainable vineyard practice program for them, and it'd be interesting for me and our viewers to know why you did that, and what you found, and why after you left Wente you're still working in that kind of direction. So please, tell us.
Basically, you know, I was fresh out of school, and I was gung-ho. I had a class in pesticide regulation class, and I knew herbicides, insecticides, fungicides. If you asked me, I knew about them, and I knew what their LD50s are, what they'd kill and what they wouldn't kill, and I was ready to go to work. And I mentioned it to Carl. I said, hey, you know, we don't have to run these hoe plows. You know, they break down. They're difficult to run at times. You got to have a specialized operator on them. And I said, we just get out there and use herbicides and clean this thing up. And Carl said, whoa, wait a minute. He says, I'm going to tell you a little story right here and now. And I said, what's that? He said, back in the 50s, he says, a product come along to do herbicide work, and we decided to stop our mechanical tillage, and we were going to use herbicides to kill the weeds. And he said it was a broad spectrum herbicide, and we began to use it on the vine rows, and the first year they worked great, cleaned everything up. We thought, boy, this is the answer to all our troubles that we've had over the years. And the following year, though, they used it again in the winter time, and come mid-spring, April, May, all of a sudden they were out in the field, and they start seeing these little critters in the field. Well, it turns out it's grape leaf hoppers in the field. And so naturally he's thinking, oh man, I better go back to the chemical dealer and get something that's going to take care of these things. And so he calls his local chemical dealer that he deals with, and he bought a insecticide that would kill those leaf hoppers, and knocked out the population. Everything was good. They just sprayed the whole works, and that was it. And they went right along and went through harvest. Everything was good. So the following season they start over again. They put their herbicide on the ground, but son of a gun, what comes back? The leaf hoppers in June and in April and May. And so he thinks, well, no problem. That product worked last year that I got from the chemical supplier. I'll use it again. Everything will be sweet and dandy, and we'll just go roll right on. But what he didn't realize was what was going to happen in June. And mid-June, he went out to one of the fields, and it looked like they had a frost. Everything was burnt, and basically they hadn't had any cold weather. So with further inspection, and they got some people out to take a look at it, and it's determined now they have mite. Pacific mite is in the field, and it's just devastating the foliage on the vines. So he gets a hold of the chemical supplier and orders some material up. But he was still in the field, and his father, Ernest, happened to come down in the field. And when he looked across the top of those vines, and he saw that vineyard all burnt, he come a-running down there to see what the heck was going on. And he says to Carl, he says, what the heck, what's going on here? Well, he says, you know, we've got mite in here. And he said, Ernest stood there for a minute, and he says, Carl, you better rethink your thinking. And Carl says, I said to him, what do you mean, Pops? He always called his dad Pops, you know. What do you mean, Pops? He says, let me tell you something. He says, we quit hoe plowing. We started using herbicides, right? Yeah. Okay, we got by for the first year. The second year, we used the herbicides. Then we have hopper, right? Yeah. Okay, that was last year. Now this year, you used the herbicides. We had hopper. Now you're standing here telling me we got mite. He says, I'm telling you, you better start rethinking your thinking. And he said, I said, holy concepts. I hadn't put it together, you know. And so at that point in time, he said, we went back to mechanical tillage. We quit using all the chemicals, products, and we went back to the natural techniques. And that made a massive impact on me, and it made an impact on me for the rest of my life. I never changed. So I think that's, you know, that's what caused me to get into think about more sustainable methods.